Following the aftermath of World War II, Dr. Ludwig Gutmann opened a spinal treatment injury center for injured veterans and citizens. Believing sports to be a major factor to revitalizing a patient's vitality, Gutmann pushed his belief to the extent of 1948, the first year wheelchair athletes publicly competed. Although society has given more recognition to the complications that people with disabilities must deal with, ultimately, some people still find themselves without the necessary modifications. Although most of us here may not have disabilities, we cannot rule out the potential that someday we may need special accommodations. As such, it is important to understand what and where we can rely upon to get such sources. Parasports, or sports designed for people with disabilities, is the best method for them to rehabilitate. Parasports achieves this through its alteration of social perception, technology advancement, and also its promotion of fitness. I would now like to begin my speech by talking about how parasports broadens social perception. Now, in the context of parasports, many people find themselves with disabilities as they have, so they must pursue readjustment and normalcy to society. Now, according to research published in 2007 by the Sport for Development and Peace International Working Group, people without disabilities would encounter persons with disabilities in a positive context and be able to see them do things that they previously never thought possible before. Now, in addition to parasports broadening social perception through this field, what parasports also does is help people with disabilities in another field. Now, unfortunately, these people with disabilities commonly find themselves with people putting prejudices on them. In the context of parasports, in an article published to The Atlantic on March 24, 2016, titled "The Competitive World of Blind Sports," many educators in traditional teaching environments find themselves afraid of liability, and kids with disabilities get excluded very often. Now, based on parasports, these participants are instead encouraged to actively competitively engage with one another, pushing themselves to the best of their abilities instead of questioning them on what they cannot achieve. Now, I would like to move on to the next part of my speech, which is talking about the technological advancements for people with disabilities. Now, what happens with people with disabilities in the field is essentially it's very hard to come up with new technology, and it's often a very costly process. Now, according to, in this case, parasports helps to develop new technology and give people with disabilities exposure to them, as such demonstrated by the rich variety in the recent 2016 Paralympics. Now, according to an article published to the Demarge in 2016 titled "See the Future of Technology at the 2016 Paralympics," the BMW wheelchair was such an example. Now, you can see the wheels are built with a very special lightweight carbon fiber composition that enables this wheelchair to have a 15% reduction in aerodynamic drag. Now, outside of a specially 3D printed seat for each rider, this BMW wheelchair contains the same schematics as typical wheelchairs. So it shows that even with these small improvements, this wheelchair has a very big impact on as far as improving speed and really the quality of life. I would now like to move on to my final point of how parasports helps people to stay fit. Now, when people with disabilities ask to themselves very commonly, what routines should they pursue? In parasports, these people find themselves essentially met with different unique regimens that are designed to push their limits. Also, furthermore, what researchers are able to achieve by studying these athletes is really find even better regimens for people with similar conditions. Now, in an article published to the University of Messina on April 2016, a test subject with Charcot-Marie tooth disease was told to participate in aerobics. What these researchers found from this person's participation with such sports was an increase in proximal muscle strength of the upper limbs, as well as many other improvements and other significant progress. Now, what this shows in real time is really the work that these fitness programs and really researchers are able to gather this much more information just from the basic concept of parasports. Now, in conclusion, I would like to say that parasports is truly the best method for people with disabilities to rehabilitate. It encourages a very rich world of character building through challenging these individuals and also the perceptions of others, through its perfection of technology, and through its preservation of core values of exercising. Under a society where people must face challenges, it is very reassuring to know that people stay connected under this umbrella of